painting the tulips from Jorge Aguilar's photo. While this is having a chance to dry, we're going to go to a different area, this one here. You can see there's quite a lot of the cool pink on this one. So I'm going to go in with some water on my brush first, just clear water. In fact, if I use that one that's slightly dirty, you might be able to see the water going on. I'm not going right up to the edges because I want the colour to be more intense on the edges. Now I can take the magenta rose, or is it permanent magenta even? Do you believe it is? And put this where I see that pale bluey colour. Then I'm going to change to the mix of the permanent magenta with the permanent rose and go for the areas where it's slightly pinker. It's still wet, maybe a bit dry around the edges, but it's wet in the centre, which is what is the bit that matters. And here it's still nice and wet. It curves round here. So with my brush I am going to emphasise the fact that it's curving at this point by moving the paint in the same direction as the petal flows. That's not dark enough. So I'm going to put a bit more colour in there. Yes. Now let's return to this area over here. We've got quite a distinct fold going on down this side. So we take the dark colour. Oh, that's nice and juicy. And bring it down there. Just soften off very edge of it just slightly. And right up against this petal it's dark, dark. But it fades away into the rest of the petal. So I'm going to bring up some water to meet it. See the shape forming? And over here there's a nice soft edge this side, so don't brush, but leave the other side of it hard edged. Didn't bring that one up quite far enough, so let's just tickle a little bit of colour into there. There we are. Now right up close against here again, dark, dark. Don't miss this little point on there. Keep that piece of shape in there. Now this area goes up here. So I'm going to wet around it. Carefully dragging out a bit of that colour. Clean my brush and wipe off that edge. A little bit more dark going in here. It's wet, so it will flow. Just down the side of that petal. Yep. little soften there, tad hard. And in here, dark recess. See how it makes this petal stand out? You get that shading in there. We don't want it to go right up to the edge. So again, attack it with some water, bringing the brush up to it so that it flows into that colour. Still got a little definition around this side, but you've got the dark coming in here. There's one more thing I want to do over here, and that is the outer edge of this petal. Just going to wet it very slightly. Go in with a little bit of shading right on the edge. Blending that out again. We'll have a dark background up against this, so we don't need too much of a deep edge because it will be shown by that dark piece of background beside it. While we're about it, this piece here isn't really quite dark enough, so let's just go in and have a little go at darkening this again. I want to be quite as deep coloured, and the edge doesn't want to be solid. It's the shadow falling from the other petal, so we'll leave it with a soft edge there. Go back to this petal again now. Let's see what we can do. It's a bit patchy at the moment, and it's not got that lovely vivid pinky piece in here. So I'm going to increase the amount of colour in here. This time I'm going to bring it right up to that edge. And right up here. Quite often the watercolour dries much lighter than you would expect it to. You may find you have to go back in and do a second layer. Now again, we need to get this colour around the edges, which is the permanent rose and the magenta, permanent magenta. Now that's nicer. We want some really dark colour in here. This is the warm dark we've got. And it's warm dark over here too. Bring it round this bottom edge. Not quite dark enough there. Just tap in the cool dark here. Just with the end of the brush. That's much better. Now back to the mix of the two pinks. Bring this colour up here. Right up the side, and it comes into the top of the petal here. It's almost a line across this petal, a solid line. As I'm working wet into wet, I won't be able to make that solid line on this pass, so we'll remember that for when we come back to it. A little bit of this magenta, more intense. Bring some of these lines up. Swapping between the two colours. Blending that out at the top. The intense colour comes up here and in here. Just in that edge there, where it's in the shade of that petal. In the recess. I haven't got this shape quite right here. I'll bring that out a little bit more. A fold in that, which I can't show because it's too wet at present. So, starting to dry around this edge now, so leave well alone. You can see how wet it is in places because the paper's bulging up, but around the edges where there's less water it's starting to dry off quite rapidly. One thing I will do is take a damp brush and lift out this little highlight here, just sucking up a bit of that colour. There. And across here, sucking out another bit of the highlight. These will be soft because the paint is wet. Okay, I really have finished on that one now.